Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah wa ba'd. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum jami'an. May Allah welcome you all. I'd like to just say, may Allah reward you for being here. Just on your Friday, you've chosen to be in one of the best places. I would think of, the best place to spend your time, this time of day, when you've got free time to do whatever you want. May Allah reward you for being here. And may you benefit from this. May your family benefit from this. Hopefully we can share with you some information that will help you into the near future and beyond. And hopefully some of that information will pass on to your children and to their children. Because these topics, the family in Australia, like Sheikh Ibrahim mentioned, I've studied the history of Muslims in Australia. But what happened to those early Muslims? Where are they now? Where are their descendants? So that's something we'll reflect on briefly, inshallah, as well. But let's start off with reminding you, as Sheikh Ibrahim mentioned too, not all of us are the most knowledgeable in everything. Some of us have a little bit of specialization in a certain area. Okay, I studied Islamic finance for my master's degree, and I wrote a book about it, but I'm not working in that field. But I have written a book, and alhamdulillah, it's part of my research is in there, and it relates to something that people wanted to know about today. It's got a niche kind of audience. But for most of my professional life, and where I'm speaking from today, is I've been a school teacher for most of my professional career, a school teacher. Primary school and mostly in high school. So part of what I want to share with you today is coming from that background as a teacher. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind, because verily the reminder, it benefits the believers. So this is where I'm coming from today. So I'm starting off with a question. Are you in a test right now? You are in a test. You'll be like, yeah, of course we're in a test, right? But how deep is this test? Because you look at the news, you look at social media, and you'll see some people going through extreme, difficult challenges. Oppression at its worst. And you say, well, I'm not really being tested compared to that person or those people. People who have really, you can't compare our lives to theirs. So really, are you in a test? And it makes you think, if I'm not really in a test like they are, does it mean that I can get rewarded? Does it mean that my life is too easy? Are there any dangers or things that I have to be worried about? Or is it just I'm in the land of milk and honey and it's all easy for me, no problem. Maybe if Allah tests me, maybe I'll pass, maybe I'll not, maybe not. But I want you to reflect on this a little bit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Ankabut, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do people think they can say, we believe, right? And that they won't be tested? وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِمْ. We've tested those before them. وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. In order to distinguish those who are true to that statement of belief and those who are liars, or those who are not true to that statement. So this verse is clear. All of us put our hand up. I believe. Just like our parents said, I believe, right? Do you think you won't be tested? Let's think about the tests of the early Muslims who came to Australia. They could not bring their wives. I'm talking more about the Afghan Cameleers, okay? They came from Afghanistan and the northwestern frontier of India, which mostly became Pakistan today. And the camels they brought came from those lands. And they arrive in Australia and they are not allowed to bring wives here. And naturally, human beings created weak, we need that company. They married women here. Some of them were Christian and some of them converted to Islam. But look what happened to these people. They came from countries or lands, right, where they grew up maybe hearing the adhan every day. We're talking about the Cameleers from Afghanistan, the Pakistan region, and northwestern frontiers of India. They arrived in Australia, but what was their background? They had a madrasa where they learned Quran. They could hear the adhan 5 times a day from their house. Their mosque was probably walking distance from their house. Just imagine that. And now they have their children to their new Muslim wives or Christian wives, and these men have to work for weeks, sometimes travel for days or weeks on end before they return back to their family, and their children grew up here. What do you think happened to those children? Within a generation, they lost their Islam. The parents were unable to pass on the Islamic identity to their children. So where are their descendants today? Allah knows best. Only some of them, over time, they realize their history, and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren have turned back, but in a small numbers. This is shocking, right? It sounds pretty bad. If you look at one guy, they call him Fazullah, right? He was the Imam of Broken Hill in New South Wales, the Imam of the Broken Hill Mosque. Now, their Imams are not Imams like we say they went to study Islam and then they came back to teach their community. That would have been nice. No, these are just workers. They came to Australia to work. And they choose the one who knows the best Quran or things like this. You lead the prayer. And that's how they became the mullah or the leader of that mosque. So they're not scholars. But this guy, his name's Fazullah. Fazullah used to always do the janazah prayer. And even when the Muslims who passed away or they returned back home or they passed away in this country, their children grew up, and then he would also do the janazah prayer on them. But slowly they were losing their religion. Finally, it came time for Fazullah to lead the prayer, janazah prayer, one of the last few people to pass away in Broken Hill from the Muslim community, and Fazullah leads the prayer. They wait for him. He's the man. He's the only one that knows how to do the janazah prayer. But then the day came, and Fazullah passed away. And there's no one to lead the prayer for him, janazah prayer. A friend of his from the Salvation Army did a funeral service for him. A Christian man read some words, some reminder, and then they buried the body, and that was it. Tradition finished. This is a real history, brothers. Fazullah, you see his grave in Broken Hill Cemetery, and his descendants and his family members and the other Cameliers who lived with him at that time. This is what happened within a generation in many communities, especially outback communities in Australia. You have a convict by the name of, according to the records, they call him Odin or Udin. I don't know what his real name is, but when a European person writes down a foreign name, it's usually incorrect. Okay? So his name was Odin. Where was he from? He was from somewhere in the Moluccas Islands, somewhere in the Indonesian archipelago. He was taken to Sri Lanka, and he was made to fight for the British. He was a convict. He was a prisoner, not prisoner. Before he was a convict, he was a soldier. He got to a stage where he refused to fight for the British, and he joined the resistance in Sri Lanka. He got captured, and he got sent to Australia as a convict in the early 1800s. What's unique about his story is that his wife was also brought here, and his children. Usually they don't bring the family. But he had a Sinhalese wife, right, from Sri Lanka, and she, how you going? Good? MashaAllah. Anyway, may Allah welcome the children here too. I hope they understand something. These stories, I could talk for days about it. As Sheikh Ibrahim mentioned, I've studied the Australian history in quite detail. I've traveled to many of these places and looked a little bit deeper than most people have. But I won't focus on this today. I'm just trying to show you what happened to a generation of people. This man, Odin, when he arrived in Australia, they changed his name to John, because it sounds the same, obviously. And They called him Mr. Dean. And in the newspapers in Australia, you can look up Mr. Dean was the first man on record, even though there would have been other Muslims who brought Qur'ans here. He's the first man on record to bring the Qur'an to Australia. Okay? According to the newspapers, they said he was the first man to bring the Qur'an here, officially. So because of that, he has a copy of the Qur'an. The court said, we need you. If any Muslim has any issue with the court system, with the law, with getting their rights, there could be sailors just coming to drop things off. Whenever they had an issue and they had to go to the court, they need to swear and take an oath. So according to their system, they understand we need a Quran so they can put their hand on it and take an oath. Who do they call? John, Mr. Dean. And he would say, you have to pay me for this. So he asked in one newspaper report, he charged £5, £5 for his service. They said, what? That's too much. He said, if you want, I'm the only guy with the Quran here. And then you have to do, where else are you going to find a copy of the Quran in such short time? So this is what happened. But look at this. John or Udeen, Mr. Dean, has been recorded as the first man to bring the Quran here. He has 7th or 8th generation descendants now in Sydney. His children had children and so on and so forth. The only difference is these descendants, they no longer carry the Quran anymore. This is the reality that many of you are facing. I know I'm starting off with the scare tactic. I'm trying to scare you in a way, but this is the reality that we have to think about. We're going to be raising our children here in this country, and there's a chance they may not all make it. And this is what you want to worry about. كلكم راع. Every one of you is a shepherd. وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Each one of you will be questioned about their flock. كلكم مسؤول. Each one of you will be questioned, responsible. So remember that. I have children, I am their shepherd. I have to try my best to, raise them with a Muslim identity, with the Islamic culture. These civilizations, they go back centuries. And this deep history of Islamic civilizations, you don't want it to finish it. You don't want to finish it with your family line, with your children. You don't want it to stop there. But that's part of the reality, brothers and sisters. What's going to happen to our children, our grandchildren? Now you might say, those people in the past, they did not have institutions. They did not have Islamic centers. They did not even have many English books in those days. And if they did, there were probably a translation that was not of the best, translation there was. They had some translations of Quran back then. They did, in the 1800s. But the thing is, you might say, us compared to them, we are in so much, it's different. We've got so many advantages now. We've got so many mosques, they're full. We've got Jumu'ah. Sometimes the mosque has 2 or 3 Jumu'ahs because it's too crowded. And this is beautiful, right? Let me just say, stop you there. In the past, there weren't many mosques. There weren't many Muslims, and there was a lack of community support. But now, may Allah bless you, now we have so many centers, so many mosques, so many books, so many resources. So do you feel like we're in a better position right now? You could feel like, yes, definitely, this is an advantage, right? But I still want to scare you again. I want to warn you right now, because there's a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and the scholars, they use this to refer to the entertainment industry. Okay, music, the movies, the cultural things, the dancing, and all the other kind of distractions that are out there. The scholars, they use this verse to refer to the entertainment industry. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُدِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. There are those from mankind who spend, they purchase, they use money to pay for idle talk or empty, stuff of no value, entertainment, to misguide people from the path of Allah, بِغَيْرِ عِلْم, without knowledge. Look at this verse. Let's just say the general definition of lahw al-hadith is to say the entertainment that can be of no value or just distracting, the overindulgence of the entertainment. Okay? So look at the tafsir, look at the tafsir. In one of the tafsirs I remember reading that the people of Mecca used to bring a girl and she would sing. Okay? Why? Because the Quran is being listened to. Let's spend some money and we'll have a singing girl to have an alternative, let people listen to that. Take their mind away from what's important, okay? Another thing that would happen is they would pay for a storyteller man. And the storyteller man would come and tell stories about the ancient heroes in the Persian civilization, okay? And the people go, this is an amazing story. So that's their entertainment. Netflix of the day, or you could say the music industry or the concerts, right? This is what we say is an example only. It's broader than that. But an example of entertainment used to misguide people from the path of Allah. Now, I want you to compare that to us now. How many times could they hear that person sing in a week? Only when that person performs, right? Because it's a live performance. How many times can they listen to the storyteller? Well, the guy has to be awake, right? He has to be ready and he has to speak. He has to have an audience and then he'll speak. But now, the test is even greater, bigger. How many of us have entertainment at our fingertips? Not just entertainment, the songs and everything else and all the kind of distractions. And you think about how empty is it? Is it helping us? Or is it just satisfying our emotions temporarily? Is it educating us, or is it making us lose sight of where we should be, what we should be doing? So now, MashaAllah, this guy gets it. If you waste your time on things, you'll lose everything. I love this, it's beautiful. I love his commentary too. It makes my speech more interesting, right? I love this boy, mashallah. May Allah protect him and his family. So, he's exactly right. It can lose, you can lose your way. It can distract you from the things that are important. I'm not saying take out entertainment completely. All I'm saying is you prioritize your time. And when it comes time for you to relax after hard work and achieving many of your goals, then you'll have some halal kind of entertainment, something that is not sinful, obviously, okay? But look at this. The intensity has increased so much compared to the people of the past. Even 100 years ago, they did not have what we have by way of distractions and entertainment. It's a double-edged sword, by the way. But if I was to give a device to my children, or a young teenager, or even a young adult these days, and say, here, it's yours, do what you want with it. What's the guarantee that they'll use it for their benefit? And what's the guarantee that they will use it and they'll definitely see things they should not see? That's why it's very important for the shepherd in the house. Every one of you is a shepherd, and each one of you is responsible for those under your care. You must be careful with these devices in particular. Be careful of the entertainment industry in general. And navigate, by the way, that's the title of my speech today. Navigating cultural challenges. So this is a huge cultural challenge that we have today. It's about normalizing things that are in the entertainment industry. And we know that a lot of it is from the fawahish, or the things that are immoral. They don't really have good role models. They don't teach the kids how to respect the opposite gender. You know the story probably better than me. And many of us are going to be facing these challenges. Anyway, I felt like I just freestyled there for a while. Let me come back to my notes. But just think about it. If you give a child a choice tonight, you say, look, in the house there's going to be a lot of food. There's sweets, there's some healthy vegetables and stuff in the fridge, you can heat it up. There's also some lollies and biscuits in the cupboard. And you just leave it for the child. No guidance. And you leave the child to choose. First thing they'll go to, most likely, I know there are exceptions, first thing they'll go to are the sweets and the yummy stuff and they're just things that taste so good. If there's no rules there, no adults, what are they going to do?
They need someone to take care of the child, so the child doesn't like escape or like get hurt.
Yeah.
No one will help them.
What will the kids eat, do you think, if they have a choice between lollies and vegetables?
They'll only eat lollies for
Thank you. Stop there.
holidays.
This guy's amazing. They'll eat lollies if you give them a choice like that. Now listen to this. It's serious about the devices. So you're right. They're kids without their parents, it's going to be different, right? They need some rules. Even if the parents go out, they need to give some rules. If you're going to give a tablet to a child, a phone,
Their eyes are gonna get like so high.
all right. Tell me later, yeah? Can you tell me later? What's your name?
Shades.
Huh?
Shades.
Shays. Nice to meet you, Shays. All right, that's amazing. So I would say the children without rules, think about this. If you just give them a device with no rules, they push you and they bug you and they say, I need one of these, everyone's got one. Then the parent, they are somewhat naive. They know there's bad stuff out there, but at the same time, how bad it is probably worse than they can imagine. So if they give them a device with no rules, no parental controls, no limitations, no basic framework for them to use it, then no doubt, it's like the food. You tell the kid, go ahead, they're going to choose the junk. They're going to choose the rubbish. They're going to choose the stuff that tastes good and not necessarily the stuff that will help nourish them and help them be healthy. So just think about that going forward. So if something we call dopamine. You know dopamine, right? People look for the dopamine rush. So for me, I love audiobooks. I don't know about you, but I think that's amazing. You can be driving your car, or you can be shopping. You know how shopping is very boring, mundane. You want to go, I've got to go get these things, bring it home to the family. I feel like I've lost if I forgot to bring my AirPods with me when I go to the shop. Why? Because when I'm walking around, I can listen to someone's done some great research on a topic, and I can listen to that while I'm shopping. If you give anyone something like headphones to use, there's a chance they may use it for good or use it for bad. Same with these devices. Same like they used to say when we were growing up, the scholars would talk about the tilfaz. What's the tilfaz? You don't use them anymore? Television. All right, when we were growing up, they were telling us about television, that it could be good or it could be bad. So the same thing with these things, earphones and entertainment devices, or I call them entertainment devices now. What do we call it? Mobile computers, these types of things. So that's just something to think about. How long we got left? I better wrap it up, and I'm not even halfway through my notes, but let's just have a look. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانِ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. Just think about that. Of course, He warns us not to fall for our temptations, right? And He has given us, made the law and made our life and made His Sharia easy for us to follow, okay? Because He knows how we are. And we know we have the nafs which could go this way or that way, okay? And we want to control it. But just think about this. Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't go near zina. All right? Don't go near it. It doesn't say don't do it. But we know that we are weak, And let me give you an example relating to our weakness. How do we overcome our weaknesses? For example, all of us forget things. Nasiya Adam, fanasiyat dhurriyatuhu. Adam, peace be upon him, forgot. Therefore, his progeny, they also will forget. You, by your nature, one of your traits is that you forget things. How are you going to guard yourself against forgetting things? For example, we know, later, okay? Was it Shways? Shays. I'm sorry, my bad. Okay. So, how are you going to protect yourself from forgetfulness? This is just an example. If you're weak and you need to protect yourself from being weak, then let's give the example of forgetfulness. Human beings, they forget. And Adam alayhi salam, the father of mankind, your father, my father, he forgot, and there's a story about it. Therefore, his descendants, they will forget. By nature, it's in us. And obviously, you're thinking, there are things I want to forget, okay? You had a bad dream, you don't want to remember it, you don't talk about it, obviously, you just want to get rid of that thought in your brain. You may have a trauma when you were a child, something, a bad memory. You don't want to remember all these bad things, okay? You want to remember good things. But we know that human beings, they will forget. And there are things that you want to remember. How do you remember them? Then you get a pen and you take it with you and you write down notes, okay? You might revise things. The Quran, you will forget it. Therefore, you have to go back and revise it. So you counteract the forgetfulness by revision, by being prepared, because this is a weakness that we have. When you go outside, is it hot or is it cold? Because it determines my body is weak. I need to wear clothes to protect me from the heat, from the sun, or I might wear layers of clothes to protect me from the cold. The fact if you wind your window down or you wind it up depends on the temperature and depends on your weakness and depends on your comfort, tolerance of comfort. So just think about it. We are weak. How are you going to protect yourself from this weakness? It could be your desires. How are you going to protect yourself from that? Now, I'm not going to give all the remedies for it, just trying to give you the example. And you think about, I need to protect myself from the evil that's out there. As a shepherd, I need to protect my children from these vices that are out there. I need to give them the instructions to live on this earth and walk a path where they are proud to be a Muslim. They're proud of their identity. And this will help them be strong. When the challenges come to them, they know who they are. You know the census, Australian census, 2021 census, there's a serious trend, a serious concerning trend. It says that the fastest growing religion in Australia is, what do you think it is? Huh? Someone said Islam? Hinduism? No. Atheism? You could say atheism. Close. The fastest growing religion is no religion. So they call it no religion as a category. They may believe in a God. They may be believing in something, but they are not following their traditional religion. Okay? So the fastest growing religion, according to the 2021 census, is no religion. It actually, it's speeding up. So the next census will be even higher. And what is decreasing is the Christian religion. That has been decreasing the fastest. Islam is growing steadily, and according to the data and the trends, right now, this day, roughly, our Muslim population in Australia should be around 1 million. Okay? 4 to 5%. That's what the last census was in the 3.8%, around that range. Now we should be around 4 to 5%, if we follow the trends from previous censuses. Can I speak to you later? Speak to you later, yeah? Later. Okay? Don't worry, I won't forget, inshallah. You remind me. So, What I'm trying to say is, you're in a country where people are losing their so-called Judeo-Christian values, and they are moving away from religion. Where do they get their belief system from? If it's philosophy, we better watch out, because you put 10 philosophers in a room, they come out with 11 different beliefs. They're confused. They'll never find the truth. If you don't follow the way of the messengers and the books that Allah revealed, you won't find it on your own. But they do accept that there is such a thing as called truth, but they don't know how to find it. And if they found it, they won't know if they found it, if it's really it or not. Confusing, I know. Then you've got psychologists. I'm not a psychologist, but what I can see is they have all these theories, and they don't always agree. So in the university, they teach all the theories, let you have a look, see what's out there, but no solid truth about what is right and wrong, okay? And then you have science, and people say, I just rely on science, this will help me. Well, let me tell you about science. Science is a good way to observe the environment around you, and to measure things, and to look at, based on what is happening. But science will never teach you values, it will never teach you morals, it will never teach you ethics. So where are these people going to get their culture from? Just putting that out there to make you realize that yes, the people in the past and the examples I gave, very serious. They had a lack of resources. We have so many resources. But now, also the dangers and the temptations have increased. The goalpost keeps moving, as they say. So what we're saying is now, this is very challenging times. Do not become complacent. Don't feel relaxed and say, I'm in the land of milk and honey. I go to the mosque, I do my thing. My kids are gonna grow up, they're gonna be a spitting image of me. Don't be complacent, my brothers and sisters. So I could keep talking. I think we ran out of time. Yeah? I better finish off now. Let me just remember to finish off with how I started. Are you in a test right now? Of course you are. I'm hoping that you're more aware of the severity of it now, even though we didn't share much, but just a few ideas that were there that I shared with you, just to try and give you an idea of the severity of what we're up against. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help strengthen Islam in our life, and to pass on this culture, this message, this belief through to our great-great-great-grandchildren, that it stays firm in our families, that we are able to instill the Muslim culture, the Islamic culture into our children from now and generations to come, and that we are able to protect ourselves from the vices and the evil that's out there, that we do not go astray. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to keep us strong, and to try and benefit ourselves and to benefit those around us. May Allah protect you and your families. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.